Good morning and welcome to day 2 of Art and Microbes, part of TACoS. So we're going to start by looking at what we did yesterday, and then we're going to talk about elements of design and composition. So starting with that, these are the two images that Katla and I did. The one on the left was the first one, and the one on the right was the second one that we did using some leaves and some grass. So one of the first things you should always do, or one of the regular things you should do when working in art, making art, is get feedback. Look at what you've done, decide what you think about it, decide what you like, what you don't like, how you can change it, how you can improve on it, but also get feedback from other people. So show these to your parents, show these to a friend, and ask them what they think. Do they think that you could have moved things around, exposed it a little different, just done anything differently, essentially? And then think about that. Think if you like their opinion, if you don't like their opinion, if you think it's useful or not useful. So today we're going to jump into design, and these are there's a lot of ideas related to design that you can use, but these are three basic things that we can work with in the photograms and the cyanotypes. So positive, negative space, repetition or pattern, and central composition, since we have fairly square pieces of cloth. If you didn't have square cloth, if you have more rectangular cloth, then you might push it off to one side and work on something called the rule of thirds. But with squares, working around the center tends to be a really nice way to work. So these are just some examples. This is the same guy who we saw his bat and bird parts from yesterday. This is a dragonfly, obviously, and a lizard. Looking at positive, negative space, but also fairly central compositions as well. So lots of space around them, put right in the middle, this high dynamic range of a light object to a very, very dark space behind it. These are some cyanotypes that also use the same thing. They look like jellyfish, but I believe this artist actually made these using plastic bags to try to mimic the idea of jellyfish. So shredding bags in a certain way. And I really like these because the blue makes it seem like the ocean, the bags make it seem like a jellyfish, whereas in reality, it's just a piece of plastic sitting on a cyanotype paper. So nothing more complicated than that. Repetition and pattern is sort of wonderful if you have lots of small things that all work together. So oranges on the left and gears on the right. Both really interesting things to work with. So for us, it could be grass, it could be twigs, it could be anything like that that you can make patterns on your cloth with. These are some other ones, some very nice twig patterns and very simple ways of working. And then central compositions are circles. These are obviously photographs. All of these are going to be photographs here just because I happen to find really nice photos of central working. But this is a friend of mine who does these things she calls nature circles, and she collects objects and puts them in a circle and photographs them. This is a very famous artist named Andy Goldsworthy who does the same thing, but out in nature, much more complexly collecting things and placing them in circles and then photographing them. But we can do the same thing with cyanotype objects. You can take little sticks and put them in a circle, leaves, put them in a circle, and just work out from the middle in as complex or as simple a set of patterns that you want. Yeah, here are some others. This is one of his most amazing pieces. These are twigs out in a lake. And so it's a reflection of the twigs and the twigs themselves making a perfect circle. So today, when you're working, I want you to play around with a couple of these ideas. Katla and I will make some designs in a little bit and make exposures. We'll also do some more complex types of exposures that we'll walk you through in a moment. So you can pause the video now, pull everything together that you need, and get ready to go make some more art. All right, so today we're going to work with slightly more complicated compositions, and we're gonna do some double exposures. So we're gonna start by prepping for a double exposure right now. So Katla, if you could pull out the first sheet of cloth. We're again using the blue and white cloth, not the colored cloths. Here, put this to the side.
Why are we using the colored cloth?
We'll move to the colored cloth for the next day. So Kyla's got her cloth down, and she's going to put 4 large objects, in this case leaves, taking up a good chunk of the image. She's going to get the plexiglass over it, and we'll walk it out to the sunlight. Instead of doing a 10-minute exposure right now, we are going to do more about an 8-minute exposure. So go find a nice sunny spot. We're going to do about 8 minutes. Then we're gonna take the leaves off, put something that has texture down, in this case grass, all over the image, and do another about 7 or 8 minute exposure of that. And then we're gonna process it. So we're doing 2 different exposures. The idea is that this exposure will make the shape of leaves, and then the second exposure will fill in that shape with the texture of the grass. So we'll be right back. I would recommend watching this all the way through right now and then giving it a shot after you're done with that. All right. Okay, 7 minutes is done, so we're gonna do the second exposure now. Kyla's gonna take off the plexi, remove all the leaves, just sort of shake them off, it's fine. And you see how we've got that latent image right there. And then we're gonna just sprinkle grass all over it. In some ways, the more the better, because it will fill in that texture and make it sort of wonderful. So, all right, go ahead and get the glass back on. It's getting a little windy, so you always have to be super careful when it's windy. All right, so we're gonna give it another 7 minutes and then we'll process it. All right, we gave it a little more time because it got a little shady here, but we are ready to go. Katla's gonna pull it off, shake it all off, and then let's walk it over. This is a good way, what she just did, if you need to walk it anywhere, it's just crumpled up into a little ball and put it in your pocket. But here we go. Gonna give it a good wash. So what we're looking for is the texture of the grass to only be inside where the leaves were. So basically the texture of the grass defining the leaves. If we underexposed it a little bit, then you would see the grass outside the leaf area. So let's hope we didn't do that. Carla, watch your hair. You're dipping your hair in. All right, so give it a good squeeze. And let's spread it out on the grass over here.
I wonder what it looks like.
Okay, so you can see the textures there. It got a little bit darker than I expected outside, so the second exposure wasn't quite as long as I wanted it to be because the sun went away. So you, depending on what the sun's like, you can extend it or shorten it, but you can see the textures in there, and we'll look at this image in the video for tomorrow morning. So what you should do is do a second exposure with the white cloth, either a double exposure like this, or playing around with one of the other ideas of composition that we talked about at the beginning of this video. So you'll have 2 exposures done today, and then we'll meet back together on the next video. Goodbye. So we've got a couple of our images, and I want to just do a little bonus on something that you can do if you can get some hydrogen peroxide from your parents. So go ask them for hydrogen peroxide and see if they have any. What's going on is that over time, the cyanotypes are going to do something called oxidizing. The metal, the iron in the cyanotype will combine with the oxygen, and that will make the blue darker and more intense. But you can speed up that process with hydrogen peroxide, and that's what we're going to do now. Also, if you look at some of these images, sometimes they have staining like this. They sort of turn this orangey color. Just another really good wash would get rid of that. So if they look like that the day after, just fill up a water bath and give them another good rinse wash, and then lay them out to dry again. So, Kyla, could you please grab the hydrogen peroxide? I've got this big old bottle of it here, and give a couple squirts into here. All right, that's probably enough. We'll just give a little bit of agitation to mix it all up. And then when we put these guys in, they're gonna change pretty drastically. As you see here, they get really, really dark as the hydrogen peroxide comes across the image. Right there, do you see that? So it's a great way to intensify images that maybe aren't quite as extreme and intense. I'm gonna put just a little bit more in there just so you can see what it looks like when it just really hits them. Always give it a good agitation. So this would happen naturally, as I said, over a couple days or a week, but this is just a way to speed up the process and make that really intense, wonderful blue color pop out. After you've done this, give them another little rinse in fresh water and then put them out to dry again.